Chapter 6 Asantewaa, the warrior queen mother of the Asante. Sick of men trying to pull strings like Geppetto. Lauryn Hill. We must now head to the northwestern part of the continent, to the ancient empire of the Asante, to find our next powerful queen. The Asante or Ashanti are an Akan-speaking people who established the kingdom from 1670 to 1957 in what is now modern-day Ghana. The government of Asante was based on a confederacy of city-states that were conquered by the kingdom's founder Osei Tutu. He, along with his high priest, Okomfo Anokye, carved out a kingdom in the region. The high priest unified the people behind the king by establishing his divine right to rule through the rites and rituals of the golden stool. Okomfo, the high priest, through an elaborate ceremony, presented the king with the golden stool that was a gift from the gods and the ancestors to the rightful ruler of the Asante kingdom. The golden stool instantly became the greatest symbol of governing power among the Asante people. It wasn't an actual throne that a king would sit upon, but rather a symbolic representation of the soul and power of the Asante people. It gave its possessor the power over the Asante kingdom. All of the power of the state was not centralized in the hands of the king. He shared power with a council that included the queen mother, the three first chiefs of the kingdom, and a few nobles of Kumasi, the capital of the kingdom. The council was called the Asante Kitoko, or the Asante Porcupine, because the members were seen as the untouchables of the society, much like the actual animal. As the death of one organism nourishes the birth and life cycle of another in nature, much like compost in a garden, so are nations and kingdoms. In the case of the Asante, it was King Osei rallying the people together in a successful effort to overcome the Dinkara nation that truly allowed the Asante to blossom into a kingdom. This series of events allowed the king to consolidate his power and secure his borders. The queen mother of the Asante people we are focused on will be Asantewaa. She was born on October 17, 1840. Her father was Kwaku Mpoma, and her mother was Adapa. They lived in the central region of Ghana called Bees. Asantewaa was the oldest of two children. Her brother, Afrainpanin, soon became the chief of Idweso. He was the most powerful person in the region. He appointed his sister the queen mother of Ejisu, a dominion of the Asante kingdom. Her childhood was uneventful for the most part. As a young woman, she cultivated crops on the land around Boankra. She eventually entered into a polygamous marriage with a gentleman from Kumasi, and the union brought forth a daughter. Her position as queen mother placed Ya in the thick of things politically. One of her official responsibility was the gatekeeper of the golden stool. Her brother, Afrainpanin, died in 1894 during a civil war, and she used her powers as the queen mother to nominate her own grandson as Ejesuhin, which was the ruler of Ejisu. He was soon captured by the British, who also took the Asante king Prempeh and other chieftains and expelled them all to the island of Seychelles in 1896. The power vacuum created by her missing grandson had to be filled by her, so she took on the role of regent of the Ejisu, Juaben district. The British became more emboldened by their dominance over the Asante, so then Governor-General of the Gold Coast, Frederick Hodgson, demanded the golden stool on behalf of the Queen of England. The governor's reasoning was that the Asante would comply with the Queen of England's rule more once they possessed the golden stool. This most outrageous request had the totally opposite effect the British thought it would have. The Asante people held a secret meeting amongst themselves to discuss the next step. The remaining chieftains of the Asante were immensely insulted, but their fear of the British left them petrified. Ya, who was present in the meeting, became greatly enraged by the men and their cowardliness towards the colonizer. She then uttered these immortal words, "Now I have seen that some of you fear to go forward to fight for our king. If it were in the brave days of Osei Tutu, Okomfo Anokye, and Apoku Ware, leaders would not sit down to see their king taken away without firing a shot. No white man could have dared to speak to a leader of the Asante in the way the governor spoke to you this morning. Is it true that the bravery of the Asante is no more? I cannot believe it. It cannot be. I must say this, if you, the men of Asante, will not go forward, then we will. We, the women, will. I shall call upon my fellow women. We will fight the white men. We will fight till the last one of us falls on the battlefields. Her fiery words set ablaze in the people, especially the females who gathered behind Yaa and her cry for war against the British. The leaders of the Asante people elected Nana Yaa Asantewaa to be the war leader of the Asante fighting force that numbered 5,000. These events led to the beginning of the Asante-British War of the Golden Stool in 1823. Yaa led her army to the capital of Kumasi to slay the English soldiers that had retreated to their fort for protection. The warriors cut off the British supply lines and telegraph wires to isolate and force them to surrender. Yaa and her forces surrounded the fort and kept the colonizers in this stalemate position for months until the Governor-General of the Gold Coast sent a unit of 1,400 soldiers to break the siege. During the battle, Yaa and her fighting force fought a valiant fight, but the British and their modern machine guns overwhelmed the Asante. Once the rebellion was quelled, Yaa and her advisors were rounded up and then exiled to Seychelles. Nana Yaa Asantewaa's rebellion marked an end to the Anglo-Asante Wars. On January 1, 1902, the British had fully taken all of the Asante lands and annexed them into the ever-growing British Empire. Yaa died in Seychelles, but the fiery spirit of Nana Yaa Asantewaa lives on in the people of Ghana and all the children of Africa.